All right, we're getting really close to having the presentation. Speaking about children, and boy, is it one huge reason of why I am involved with Shackley Company is because of our kids and the importance of having and raising healthy children. There's nothing more important in so many levels of taking care of them and what we can show them and how we can um, be the example to our children. And I know many of us, Donna, Pam, myself, Sue Ann, that I can see, are mothers of children that were raised solely on Shackley, conceived on Shackley pretty much. And so it's interesting to see what happens when they're little and how much they'll accept on what, the peer pressure sometimes can get pretty tough at school on what they're having in their lunchbox. And I know switching lunches with those that have the junk food and versus the health food. So we've had, and Carolyn had a great comment. Carolyn, I meant to add you as well. She had true confessions of a sneaky mom going with her child. Christopher, I remember, and we all said, how are you getting all that into him? Because I would find supplements stuck in the cushions of my couch or in my plants, because I was trying to get the kids to eat well. And my children didn't have sugar until after they were 5 years old. So when they first had sugar, what was crazy was they dove head first into a cake. I mean, it was like, what is this? And their whole face was covered. So I'm going to put up the presentation today, and I'm going to introduce my best friend, Pam Budner, from ninth grade in middle school, who's going to be beginning this program today. So with that said, Pam Budner, who's in Vermont, taking care of her beautiful grandson. So Pam.
And granddaughter.
Well, on this front page is her grandson, Cole. Back when.
So this is a great photo as soon as Joanne brings it up. I love this photo. So this is my grandson, Cole, when he was probably about 2. And he now has a sister who is almost 2. And I thought I had taken this photo, but Caitlin came in earlier and said, no, this was taken at the Hannaford that's up in Maine where his other grandparents live. But I love this picture because it's got all the fruits and vegetables behind it, and he's so happy, and it's so typical. Even though he's 5 now, he still has that same smile. He hasn't had a haircut in way too long. He has a mop of curly hair right now, reminiscent of Shirley Temple for those of you who know. But just go back before I continue, Joanne. I just also wanted to give my utmost thanks to a Shackley colleague, key coordinator Nidra Czar, who is the original author of this presentation that we have adapted today. And we've condensed it and we've updated some things, but Nidra has several advanced degrees in nutrition, and she is a resident with her husband, Gene, of Elliott, Maine, not far from where I live in Massachusetts. And you will know Nidra perhaps from going to any of the science-based symposiums that Shackley hosts during their global conferences or some of our regional things, because she is truly an expert in her field of nutrition, and she's also a grandmother. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. We've got some things that we're going to go through. We're going to talk about picky eaters and overeaters, and allergies and missing nutrients and the role of environment in kids' health. We're going to talk about how to maximize kids' learning and how to have some healthier diets, snacks, and supplements. So picky eaters begins around age 2 or 3, and my granddaughter's at that age right now. She's very clear when we put something in front of her and she says no. She's got a mind of her own, and most kids between the age of 2 or 3 can get picky. They fear anything new. And I remember my daughter, who ate pretty healthy growing up, but she had this one period of time where she only wanted to eat tortellini. And that was her standard meal of the night. So, what can you do with kids that are picky eaters? You have to have good strategies. You're responsible for what your child is offered to eat, and he or she is responsible for how much. And how important is that? I remember going to a friend's house for dinner as a kid growing up, and the rule of her house was to have a clean plate. And sometimes having a clean plate is not really the best way to teach kids how to eat. We just want to offer them really good food and no short order cooking. And we want to always introduce some new foods with no pressure. And I love the way my daughter and her husband are teaching their kids good eating habits, because they will often just say, oh, just try it. It's just new, just try it. And then they back off and invite the child to just try a new food. And no snacking. Water, of course, is great. There's never been soda in this household. And that's a really good thing. So you're in charge of feeding. He or she is in charge of eating. Picky eaters. What's next? Healthy snacks. There's so many wonderful things. And I was so pleased yesterday. My granddaughter, and pardon me if I just tell you stories, but because I'm here and I'm in the midst of giving care to these two great kids, I had a big canvas tote in the room that I'm using here. And my granddaughter came in here, and in the bottom of my tote, she came out with a peanut butter snack bar that I had left in the bottom of the tote. And she insisted that I opened it up for her, which I did. I peeled it away and I crumbled it into little pieces, put it down, and she ate the whole thing. So that was her introduction to a healthy snack, right? So there's another one we can put on the list. The kids also love those smoothies now, that yogurt things that come in pouches, which are great snacks. The stuff that's plain Cheerios is a good snack. What other kinds of things? There's all different kinds of great snack foods that are available right now. And water and milk, and just avoiding all the junky food that lines the aisles of so many of our supermarkets, just full of Fritos and Doritos and candy and all that stuff. And these kids here in this house have never seen a juice box. Juice boxes are just loaded with sugar. Water is the best. Water, milk. Perfect. Let's go to the next. Yeah. I can't get them to eat vegetables. Well, what can we do? You can hide vegetables. You can make a tomato sauce and put lots and lots of vegetables in a tomato sauce and puree it up. I have a Vitamix. It's the best appliance probably since buying a good vacuum cleaner that I've ever owned. Anything can be ground up and hidden if you grind it up. So getting vegetables in smoothies and sauces, lots of different things. And this is where supplementation comes in as well. We have Ocean Wonders, which is kosher. And we have the Incredivites, which has the inulin in it, which helps the friendly bacteria to flourish. And we've got meal shakes, which is a great breakfast. My daughter's favorite thing, going to school in the morning, I would make her what I call an orange Julius. And it was good orange juice with the vanilla meal shake. The combination was it was like a creamsicle. If you've ever had those as a kid, those creamsicles on a pop, the combination of orange juice and vanilla meal shake, that was her favorite. And I would send her dad was driving her to school. She'd go out the door with it in a shaker. So there's so many different things you can do with those meal shakes, and kids like that creamy texture of them. That's so great. The other thing I just really wanted to call attention to, my grandson has never been on antibiotics. He's 5 years old. He'll be 6 this year. And he's had Incredivites, I think, since the age of 2 or so. And he just loves them and asks for them. He has never had a sugary vitamin in his mouth. So he doesn't know, what that gummy sweet syrupy kind of taste is. And he always asks for his Incredivites. The other thing that if you have kids that have trouble sleeping or who have leg cramps, the chewable calcium magnesium is a wonderful product for kids, just one at night. we call the calcium nature's lullaby mineral. And you can always crush it up, with the back of a spoon or a mortar and pestle and put it in some applesauce or a softer food like that. And Carolyn will give you any kind of tips about being a sneaky mom, because I'm sure she doesn't forget about them. Because Christopher, got all those little sneaky mom things going on. So what do we do with overeaters? This is a recent statistic that I pulled out from the CDC. The prevalence of childhood obesity in the United States for kids ages 2 to 19, that the percentage is 18.5%. That's a huge amount of the population. This is 13.7 million kids, and this is a very, very recent statistic. Why is this? Let's take a look at the next slide. What can we do to prevent our kids from being overeaters and from becoming obese? Because with obesity comes poor self-esteem. Kids get bullied if they weigh a little bit too much. The kids get depressed. It also presents hip and bone problems, liver problems, early puberty. You often hear about that, especially with little girls. Sleep apnea, breathing problems, diabetes, heart problems, high blood pressure. These are things that we do not want our kids to be faced with. Or any adult. But why is it? So let's take a look at the next slide. Joanne, you want to talk?
Okay, it's interesting. Both of my children are very big boned, and so they were never, Caitlin, Pam's daughter, is very tiny and slim and petite, and my children would say, even though I gave them great foods and watched taught them properly in eating, they're just big bone children, and it's very important that we let children understand that being big boned and a little larger, if they are eating well properly and not abusing their bodies and they're exercising, etc., is just a matter of different body portions. So that's important. We taught very early on that going to a fast food restaurant, I taught them how unhealthy it was, and we have shown on another presentation the McDonald's package with cheeseburger and fries that we've kept we buy it, keep it in our home, and put the date on it, and it never rots, never starts smelling. The dog won't even eat it. It becomes petrified. And so that was a good learning lesson for my children to see why mom doesn't go to McDonald's. Then, of course, you see supersized portions, people walking around. And my children also, we didn't have sodas in the house, juice cans. We had water, we had good meal shakes, we made substitutes. But the sodas instead of milk or water are really, really important. And I wanted to say that even though they were resistant, the kids, if you educate them properly, they will notice the difference. And now both of my children are, one is vegan and the other is vegetarian. And boy, they'll criticize me if I get something wrong in the house now. Exercise is critical. People don't move enough. And I think what's very important is watching and seeing, because it's so easy to let a few days pass where even we might not exercise because of what we've been having to take care of right now. And the kids, I know my grandkids are all very physically active, and that's something to watch out for if they're sitting on the couch having too much screen time. Another thing that's really important is family meal time, where everything gets shut off, where you're sitting across the dining room table and having good conversations so that children feel connected to you as a parent. And they know that you care enough about them to have some discussion, so they're not being so influenced by the screen time, by the phone and the texting and what's going on with their friends, that you are the guiding light for them in how much you care about them. Cereals. Now, I know my children never got blueberries and frankenberries and colored all these colorful sugars. And then the advertising, my daughter would say, but Mom, why do they advertise it? Why is it on the TV? Why can't we get it? Because all the fun is there. And now look, it's 75% less sugar. It's sweetened with Splenda. There's a different brand sweetener, so that they think it tastes like sugar, and it really isn't. The synthetic or artificial sweeteners are even worse than sugar. FDA approved use of sucralose in 15 foods and beverage categories. We have done, many of us have done nutritional education for children in children's schools. I went and did something for the Girl Scouts where you showed how much sugar was in a can of soda. And I don't know the numbers. Maybe someone in the group here remember what number of sugar is in one can of soda. And you sort of do a great demonstration to show the kids. That's not the substitute, that's just real sugar. How much is in our baking goods? This blew my mind, really. Recently, I decided to make a cake. I do not bake. Baking has never been good to me. When I finally tried to bake a cake, not from a box, I could not believe the amount of butter in the icing and sugar in the ingredients, the confections and the frostings, the fats and oils. It's really important to take a look at the processed fruit and fruit juices. I taught my children that it's really important to look at ingredients on a label. And the ingredients on the label, if you can't pronounce them, and there's a litany list of all the ingredients, it's not a really pure product. Most products that are good for you will have 2 or 3 ingredients and won't have a lot of alternate substitutes. So I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here in the group that usually shows up, but this is important information for you to impart to others. And I'm hoping that we can educate those that need educating on why we don't want to have children get artificial sweeteners in their diet. Diet sodas are the worst thing that anybody could possibly drink. They can cause shrunken thymus glands, enlarged liver, kidneys, reduced growth and weight, increased red blood cell count. Why are children unhealthier now than they've ever been in history is because of all the contaminants, all the artificial stuff, all of the repackaging of things that were once natural and trying to make artificial food from chemicals. I saw a presentation once where we watched a movie where there was a long table and a woman or a man in a chef's hat and coat, and he's putting all these chemicals into this little bowl, mixing it all up. We didn't know what one ingredient was. It was all chemical based. He goes from underneath the table and comes out and holds up a key lime pie. That was the key lime pie that he just made, and there wasn't one natural ingredient in the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So that kind of stuff can say, can we really be fed and have healthy bodies with chemicals solely in our body? Before we leave Splenda and other artificial sweeteners, this point we toyed with showing this slide, but I felt it was really important. I'm ADD. I've had learning disabilities. I am allergic to artificial sweeteners, artificial colorings. All ADD children should not have any artificial colorings or sweeteners. Those just trigger the ADD level. But in this one here, it's the ability, people lose their ability to regulate food intake and body weight. They learn early in life that sweet tastes and dense, vicious, I can't pronounce that word, foods signal high calories. This ability is lost because they mess up the natural appestats. So, for example, you don't know when you're full because it messes with your appestats. So when you get all those chemicals in your body and the artificial sweeteners, you lose the ability to regulate yourself. That's why the rise in obesity correlates with the increase in artificial sweeteners. My dad was obese, as many of you know, and he died of obesity. We have it in our family. So it became very important for me to make sure that I didn't uh, put things in my children's lives that would have them to have to deal with that kind of illness, because it is an illness. Do your kids like to eat sardines? Well, do I like to eat sardines is a good question. I'd say no to that, so they certainly wouldn't. And Shackley products, you know, it's a revelation in buying good quality. When you buy good quality, you know, people want to get something cheaper and less. And wouldn't you all find that when you go that route, that's what you end up with? A lot less and a lot cheaper quality. Well, Shackley came out with Mighty Smart Choice for Children, which will give the children omega-3 fatty acids, which help their body fight against allergies, enhances brain development. How critical is that when we have these young little bodies and brains, that we want to give them the best possible ingredients to enhance their brain development? I had a learning disability, you know, in school, so it was always a challenge. We didn't know about, you know, Mighty Smarts or omega-3s, and it certainly makes it a lot easier to get in them when they can open this little package that looks so cute and actually has really good things. It helps the retina of the eye. Well, eyesight, we all know as we age, is just even more important. So the better that they get the beginning of empowering the strength of the retina of the eye is really important in school. And omega-3s are not present in all infant formulas. So that's something that you want to take a look at if you have someone who's using an infant formula, that they should choose one that would have the omega-3s. I'm going to now pass it along to Sue Ann, another Shackley mom who's gotten great results regarding allergies. So Ann?
Okay, thank you, Joanne, and thank you for all that great information. Yeah, I looked at the slide and recognized allergies. This is like a small section of highlighted of what can happen with an allergy. But first I thought, you know, well, what exactly is an allergy? So I did a definition lookup, and an allergy is a damaging immune response by the body to a substance. So as Joanne had just referenced, you can have a reaction to an additive or a coloring. It can be an environmental, pollen, dust, dander from pets, a food, a medicine, additives, artificial sweeteners, artificial colorings can all trigger. These are some of like the main ones we think of: hay fever, asthma being huge, just huge with children today. Bee stings, peanut allergy, all of these can actually be helped nutritionally. Go on to the next slide. So this book, I have a story with my son. This became my go-to book, along with our late Dr. Linda Rodriguez, who was a pediatrician. She was also a pediatric cardiologist. And I was turned on to Dr. Doris Rapp by her, who is a pediatric allergist. And, you know, I kind of patted myself on the back that I was like a really good mom, fed Billy healthy, you know, being a dental hygienist and having a nutrition background. You know, we always ate healthy, limited sugars, mostly came from fruit. If I gave him juice, it was like 25% juice, 75% water. He never really knew what juice tasted like until probably he went to a friend's house and had it. And it was like, wow, this is like way too sweet. But second grade hit, and he was coming home with these headaches and putting his head on the table and just not being able to function. And long story short, when I volunteered in the school one day, found out that the teacher was giving them as a snack fruit roll-ups, which are nothing more than sugar, gelatin, red food dye. His body reacted violently to red food dye. He would get a migraine, he would throw up. So part of like becoming a parent is becoming a detective with what works for your child, what doesn't work for your child, because if it doesn't work for you, chances are it's not going to work for your child because they came from us. So I really recommend this book highly because Dr. Rip goes into all these things. You know, is this your, yeah, that's fine, Jen. You want to go on to the next slide? Yeah, is this your child? I can tell you Billy had eye circles, he had red ears, he had red cheeks, he had eye wrinkles, he had the model tongue. Lack of alertness happened when he was diagnosed with asthma, and the medications that the doctor put him on just totally made him a different person. So working through nutritionally, you know, I never negate, you know, if you need a medicine to get you over the hump, if you have an acute situation, you need acute intervention. But on a daily basis, and as you're molding and watching these children grow, you can help them nutritionally with probably 95% of the symptoms with what they're eating, what they're reacting to. I know Jennifer's going to be talking about our cleaners, because some of these things, they could be eating the food, but they're not really reacting to the food. They're reacting to maybe the cleaner that you just cleaned the kitchen table with. And so that's where I say, you know, becoming the detective becomes really important. But moms needn't need to worry, because we have these wonderful supplements that can help to fill in the gaps. The Ocean Wonders and Incredibites is a great multivitamin, multi-mineral. I, as a dental hygienist, recommend these highly because they're sweetened with xylitol. Xylitol is a natural sugar that will not promote tooth decay. A lot of these gummies that kids are given have very little of the nutrition that says it is on the label, but also the gummy gets stuck into their enamel grooves, and that creates cavities. And, you know, the last thing you want to do is put your child through you know, restorative dentistry. It's much easier to come and see me where we have fun, where we polish your teeth, we count your teeth, we have fun at the dental hygienist chair. So I try to really, you know, educate parents that, you know, feeding your kids less sugar, using supplements that don't have sugar to sweeten them, that are going to stick, is important. The meal shakes we highlighted, that's a great protein drink. The pre and probiotics. This is near and dear to my heart. My grandson that was born a year ago, my daughter-in-law had like the perfect pregnancy. Did everything right, ate everything right, supplemented, you know, Shackley was her supplement to go. Her OB signed off on that because they said it was very complete. But had some complications in the delivery. So 39 hours of labor and then a C-section. She was pumped full of antibiotics, tons and tons of antibiotics. And at that point, it's out of your control. So we worked with Camden's and her digestive tract using the pre and probiotics, the new Optiflora that Shackley has, and got his gut. Now his gut is perfect. She's back to normal. And it was all putting in that friendly bacteria that those antibiotics took away. So the takeaway from that is, even if you get into a situation that, you know, you have to do what you really don't want to do because it's out of your control, there is a way to come back. And that's what I love about when I found Shackley, is it's not only these products, it's the people that you're going to meet that have went through different things, that, you know, it's a balance. It's a whole lifestyle of, you know, what you feed your body, what you clean your house with, what you supplement with. It's a whole lifestyle that is just a wonderful team of people to be part of. And then,
Go ahead.
okay. The very allergic kid, and I know this is going to be highlighted, the Shackley Get Clean Kit. The basic H, I could have Billy help me clean because he was, you know, asthmatic, and he couldn't use other things that I was using. When I switched my cleaners over, basic H was one. He had his bottle of basic H, I had mine. We both cleaned together, and it was, you know, it was a win-win because cleaning went faster. Nutriferon, this is a great product. It's natural interferon. Shackley is the only company that will ever have this awesome product. I have a story with this one too. I was latex allergic 17 years ago. My hands literally looked like I put them in poison ivy. Nutriferon had come out, and of course, you know, I thought, well, you know, add that into the regimen. The allergist that I saw said that the skin on my hands would never come back and heal because the immune response to the latex was so severe. My hands now are perfect. And, I really credit this product because it's very healing. Again, my immune system went awry. This is an immune boosting product. And I just highly recommend it. Garlic is a natural antibiotic. Omega Guard we've touched on with the fish oil. This is capsule form. So the Mighty Smarts I even use those. I love to chew them. The Omega Guard I used to squeeze because we didn't have Mighty Smarts back when Billy was little, and Carolyn might appreciate this story. Billy always got Omega Guard in his peanut butter and jelly sandwich because I could hide it in between the layers.
So did you open up the capsule and put it on its peanut butter?
Yeah, he could do peanut butter. So if you can't do peanut butter, there's other nut butters or
There's
even
almond butter or
almond
anything.
butter.
So you actually opened up the capsule too at that point, especially when they get beyond the Incredivites too.
Yeah,
now, did you use alfalfa for Billy?
We did alfalfa, and many times I would either crush it up, and again, that could go in when he was too little to swallow, or he didn't like the tea because there were green things floating around. So I would say, okay, well, I would crush it. And again, it went into his peanut butter and fruit spread, whole wheat bread, truly whole wheat bread.
So he had so many, he had asthma, he had the headaches, all the symptoms, so that basically, how did he turn out after getting him on the regime that you wanted to get on, and after reading the book, he became asthma free?
Yes, and with the help of Dr. Ripp's book and our late wonderful Dr. Linda Rodriguez, Billy entered kindergarten free of any medicines. Now, we worked on, weaning him off his asthma medicines. We really felt that how he became so allergic and so asthmatic was he had gotten basically sprayed by a lawn chemical when he was at a babysitter's, and that triggered.
He got sprayed by what?
Chemical lawn service.
The lawn, one of the biggest culprits.
Yes.
For young children.
I'm not going to name it. It's one of the very popular ones, and they advertise that they have a natural, but I don't really think so. But so we felt that triggered, that lowered his immune response because he had been a really happy, well kid up until that point. So
okay, let's move on to Anne. We're running short on time here to get through everything, but thank you. That was very informative. And so many kids have so many allergies now than they've ever had before. Jennifer, you want to share, Jennifer, some of the missing nutrients from the different age groups?
Sure. I wasn't originally assigned this slide, but I can help a lot, actually. We have some missing nutrients for kids aged 2 to 12. Low iron, that's linked to learning and behavioral problems and depressed immunity. Low iodine, that's huge for mental growth, thyroid function, weak muscles, and low zinc. Those are 3 of many missing nutrients, and it's really about cutting sugar. It's really about how you start your day, because if you start your day with protein as opposed to a carb, you're not going to be craving all the bad foods and therefore contribute to any kind of nutrient deficiency. My daughter was first 7 years of her life raised in Japan, and is where I used to live. And the Japanese start their day with fish, little miso soup, some rice. And so we got into the habit. I'm very fortunate that I was able to get into the habit because there was no cereal in Japan, like none. My mom would send a box of Cheerios once a month, and that was like liquid gold, But starting with protein is so important because then your child is going to want to eat some of those foods that you want to introduce them to. So I have to say that really, if you want to address missing nutrients, start with the protein. Teenagers, so calcium is really important. We kind of create our own bank account of calcium in our bones up to the age of 30. I've heard 35. I've heard as low as 25 years of age. So we've got to get calcium in the body and calcium in kids' diets early on, because then that starts to deplete after the age of 30, 35. Folate, B12, B6 is very important. The B complex, my teenage daughter's on the Vitalizer Women actually, and the B complex is so essential for PMS and for mood swings. Again, you've got to start the day with a protein breakfast. A Life Shake is the no-brainer, and there's lots of options if, you know, somebody, I often help my health coaching clients with protein-centered breakfast. Eggs are just fine. This is a smoothie that I created. I love to create things in my Vitamix. I love my Vitamix. It loves me back. It's peanut butter and jelly smoothie. And so in this one, I suggest some nut milk or water. And again, if there's an allergy, water is fine, or whole milk, depending on any allergies. 2 scoops of strawberry Life Shake, along with half a cup to a cup of frozen blueberries or any berries. That's like your jelly there, the strawberry Life Shake and the berries. And then a tablespoon or more of nut butter. And again, if there's any nut issues, tahini, which is a sesame nut butter, is a wonderful creamy butter to give it that creamy taste. And then, of course, put fiber in everything. You know, we haven't yet really talked about fiber, but fiber is really important to keep blood sugar levels stable. So every chance you can sneak in some fiber, sneak it in. So 1 scoop of fiber plan. And again, if you want to be the sneaky mom, I'm also guilty. A handful of spinach or 2 handfuls of spinach in a Vitamix. It's not even tasted or seen because it blends so efficiently. The nut butter gives us a really nice creamy consistency. In my opinion, children will barely taste the spinach if you decide to sneak some in.
Did you use the, how old was when your daughter first started using Shaklee nutrients in the shake?
She started in the shake maybe 9 or 10, and she's 16 now.
Okay.
And in Japan, I was blending a lot of foods, and we didn't have any protein powders and things there. So I would do a lot of blended foods. But yeah, to answer your question, she's about 9 or 10. And then
Yeah.
probably about 14, 15, because she started puberty early. I had her on the B complex and 1 Vitalia, and now she's on the full Vitalizer Women for the last 2 years.
Terrific. I know my children are as well. Okay, Carolyn, I think I got a little messed up here, everybody, on the slide offering for some reason. So I don't know if Carolyn wants to take this or Jennifer, whatever.
I'm ready to take it, actually, because that's where I did the research.
Sure.
If that's
Okay,
okay.
so
Go for
why
it.
don't you do this slide,
Go for it,
please?
Jennifer.
Sure, sure. I'm very interested actually in this field of study about genes and environment. We have our own genetic predisposition. And just because you have certain tendency towards illness or disease, it doesn't mean those tendencies will be expressed by your DNA. So you can think of your genes like a loaded gun, but what really pulls the trigger are environmental factors. So when it comes to child's learning and their learning potential and tendencies for ADD or any even more mild learning disabilities, we have to look at the environmental factors in the environment and the food. I'll start with the food now because the next slide will be about the air quality and toxins. But there are foods that will impact how the brain works. If you really want to delve into it, I haven't yet. There's this book, Why Isn't My Brain Working? And this is a Dr. Karazian who has said that sugar is, our brain needs sugar, but too much sugar impacts neurotransmitter functioning. We know that Splenda and artificial sweeteners are neurotoxins. We know that artificial food coloring, neurotoxins. So you may have the best genetics in the world, but if you're poisoning the brain is not going to work well. So whenever there's any kind of learning disability or learning concern or behavioral concern, I always advise my clients to play detective, like I think it was Sue Ann said. It really is about detective work, because not everybody's recipe for what's causing the disaster is the same. So you start with food allergens, you start with gluten, sugar, food coloring, preservatives. I can go on and on. I will say sugar is such a biggie. And this doctor who wrote this book on Why Isn't My Brain Working, he goes so far as to say, and this like totally blew my mind, he goes so far to say that dementia and Alzheimer's really are type 3 diabetes.
Wow.
Like, wow, right?
Yeah.
So what do you add in addition to taking out things? You add probiotics. Our products with Shaklee are phenomenal, and the products you've seen so far are the ones I would recommend to add. One last thing that's I think is just really powerful about your environment and your DNA. If you really want to be blown away by the healing power of nutrition, I like blowing people away with this stuff because I'm interested in. I have this DVD. There's a DVD. I don't know if you can see it, but I can certainly send anyone a link that's interested, called Simply Raw: Reversing Diabetes in 30 Days. Make a long story short, there's an MD, Gabriel Cousins, who has a healing center out in Arizona, or he did at the time. And he took 8 diabetics, 2 type 1s, the rest were type 2s. He got them off, the type 2s off their insulin within 5 to 7 days, and the type 1 diabetics, type 1, that's childhood, that's your DNA. That's a DNA influence. He got the type 1 diabetics off of insulin within 14 days with food. That's really powerful in terms of how diet can impact or suppress genes or minimize the expression of genes. Maybe you can't eradicate it completely, but the severity of it most definitely can be impacted by diet.
We have so many testimonials for those that are new on the call that can validate the changes that can occur when making the changes that we're talking about. Thank you, Jennifer. That was great. And I love your picture behind you. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, Carolyn, we'll give you this one.
Well, I like to say that there are kind of 3 steps in dealing with these issues with kids and behavior and so on. The first one is to look at what are the things that are the stimulants that we can get rid of, that we can eliminate. And that begins with things like some of our toxic household cleaners and things that are just kind of routinely in our life. But it may be the cleansers and the ammonias and the Clorox and the things, because those things are known to stimulate different behavioral issues. And of course, the extension of that is that they can lead to become fatal poisons. So the first thing we can do is look at what are the things that are around us that we could possibly remove that would be the stimulants. So next
Markers
slide.
can also be a big, I know when I'm around strong markers, I definitely can tell a difference in how I can focus and function.
Yeah, open that Sharpie and just smell it.
No, thanks.
I mean, it just, you can tell. So then if we look at what can we eliminate, then we can look at, okay, what do we replace it with? What kinds of healthy choices can we make? And so this is the introduction to using non-toxic cleaning products. And the beauty about these is that the resistance usually is, well, they're more expensive or they don't work. And neither one of those is true. They're not more expensive. They're actually as economical or more economical, and they do work. And the beauty is that they're so concentrated, you have just a small number of products that you're actually using. And so you can get the effectiveness. So we can eliminate those extra toxins. We can substitute some things, in this case, from the household products area, we can substitute some things that work as well. When we talk about some of the earlier topics, we can substitute some snacks that are healthy as opposed to the alternatives. Incidentally, I just got a message from one of our listeners here who went and did the research on Cokes, and 1 can of Coke has about 9.75 teaspoons of sugar, or approximately 35 grams of sugar in 1 teaspoon. And if 35 grams of sugar times 4 calories per gram, that's 140 calories of straight sugar in 1 Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Just imagine.
And it's a great demonstration for anyone that wants to get a kid off Cola. I did it, when I had researched it. I just took sugar and I kept adding it to a jar and had the can of Coca-Cola right next to it, and the kids' jaws just dropped. And especially after hearing what Jennifer just said about the power or lack of power or the dysfunction of sugar, you know, I notice a difference when I get a sugar buzz. It definitely, I lose focus. I'm not as clear thinking as when I get some sugar in me. Thanks, Carolyn. Let's have you, I think this is something for you, or you want to, well, we talked a lot about aspartame dyes, artificial flavors or preservatives. Sue Ann mentioned only natural sweeteners like xylitol. You can look at biotin. If you know, for those that are not utilizing Shaklee supplements, there is a Shaklee difference. Ask the person who invited you here today to give you a little bit more information on the Shaklee difference, but it goes back to my saying that you get what you pay for. You get the quality, you get the best raw materials, and I'll talk a little further about that. But biotin, who remembers the stat on biotin, how expensive it is and why it doesn't go into most supplements? It's more expensive than silver, biotin. So that's why people, companies don't put biotin in their vitamin because it's so much more expensive than silver. You want it formulated with 23 essential vitamins and minerals. You know, I'm not a scientist. We have people that are like Jennifer that was talking, and Sue Ann and Pam, they love the detail on the science. I love the science to be so good that I don't have to question it or understand it. That I'm a lay person and I will trust all the scientists at Shaklee because of its years of history. So it takes the worry out of my trying to figure out when I'm at a health food store, which I've been going to health food stores for well over 45 years or more, when they were in little shops and little stores. But Shaklee supplements take out the worry. Every raw ingredient in every Shaklee product is tested for 400 pesticides. Hello. You hear what happened with Billy being exposed to a pesticide that might have gone onto a lawn or a chemical lawn ingredient. Just think if you start ingesting it. Shaklee makes or oversees production of every product. They're made in the United States, except for a couple of items like Nutriferon and the Nutriferon, I think, is in Japan, from Japan, and that the carbo bars are not carbo bars, the bars are from Canada. We get balanced formulations for best results. If you look at our B complex, it's a complex of nutrients. Dr. Shaklee said, I've never seen a vitamin B bush. Vitamin B is always placed together in combination, and it's a complex in nature. So we get the best of nature formulated by the best of science. Purity and safety beyond organic. We like to say that we're beyond organic because we test every raw ingredient from our organic sources to see if, for example, the field was grown near a highway or near a contaminated area of water that no one knew about. Shaklee tests way beyond that. So let's recap what the healthy action is for parents of children and for ourselves. Clean up your family's diet. Take a look at what's in your refrigerator, what's in your cabinet. As Carolyn mentioned, what's under your sink. Encourage at least 1 hour of daily exercise and pay attention that they're actually doing some good healthy exercise where they get cardiovascular exercise, weight building. It can be a variety of things. Nowadays, they have a lot of sports certainly, but if they can't be involved in sports, now we can do things with them outdoors. Change to odor-free, environmentally friendly cleaners. Our cleaners are so economical. They're not a profit stream for our distributors, certainly. It's really, we call it a lost leader in the sense that they are so effective. People have them around for years, if they use them properly. I can tell, I have had a cleaning person do my home cleaning, and I can tell if they try to sneak in a different product to clean my house. Immediately can smell the chemicals. Add nutritional supplements. That's the way why Dr. Shackley even actually started the company with nutritional supplements, was he saw that manufacturing of food was stripping all the nutrients out of our food sources. So he knew he had to go to nature, get the food sources, put them in a supplement so people would have them to be able to build their diet with proper supplements. Limit screen time, case closed. We all have to. I know I turn things off. I just say I have to stop. Talk, play, and read with your children. What a joy it is to be able to have Pam out there with her grandkids, building a pond, having the sand. Those are the things that our memories are made of. Those are things that make your children feel valued and wanted and loved. And then, of course, encourage your family mealtime. My dad worked all the time. We owned a restaurant, so we would have to go to the restaurant to have mealtime, which wasn't too bad because we got great food. But that's where we would sit and eat and have family mealtime. And every Sunday, we would have a big family mealtime. I come from a large Italian family. We'd have 20, 30 people at the table on Sunday to be with my grandmother. Those things aren't being done today. And they're great memories and great healthy ways to connect. So our goal has always been to have happy, healthy kids. Lifelong health, it starts early and it starts with the best. And we, of course, believe and know that Shackley is the best choice.